Today, I have a friend of mine, a client of mine. Not that we've done a lot together in that regard. He's going to be anonymous in regards to his eyes, I think, for right now, unless he decides to take the sunglasses off. You never know. And his name. But friend of mine, he's awesome. Him and I have hung out a little bit in person, on the internet, the whole thing. And he does e-com, growing a big brand in the sporting niche, I guess we can call it. Yeah. And we met on Twitter, and he goes by Ghost Rider. And that link is below if you want to check him out. But dude, how about you introduce yourself? Because I think people on Twitter might see this and be like, oh shit, like this guy's actually super deep in this and super legit. And I think it's just going to be a great discussion in general. Because basically, when we met and we lifted, and then we just went and got steaks or whatever, like everything, I was like, dude, we agree on legitimately everything. And that's wild to think because I am from New York and you're from California. Right. And we met in Miami. And it's just interesting how the internet has brought people like us together, and now we're here on a podcast. So introduce yourself and let's begin.
100%. Yeah. So I didn't grow up on the internet like a lot of people that I've met on Twitter that I've developed good relationships with. So meeting guys that have grown up and built their whole persona and business online is fascinating to me and I consider to be fortunate in this regard, having kind of developed an identity offline before I really took myself to the internet and started building online businesses and really building my whole network online, because it's hard to meet people like yourself just in the day-to-day flesh, right? Like the way that people on money Twitter think or deep in business think, it's a very uncommon approach to life that a lot of people just don't relate to. So when I bump into people like yourself and other people that I work with now in my business that I've met online, it's a great pleasure because you just don't meet those people now at the gym. You don't meet them in social settings. It's very hard to find people that are this tapped into business and life.
100%. And what's really interesting, you said something, it's an uncommon approach, but the dichotomy of it is that although it's uncommon, I genuinely think it's the right way to live.
Sure.
And then you look around and you see everybody. I'm looking down at the pool because everyone's at the pool. You look around and it's like, what are these people thinking? What are they doing? I don't understand it because I'm loyal to the truth. And so when I'm loyal to the truth, and I think you're the same, you look at people that are just, head is just somewhere else. And I don't know how that they function,
Yep.
And it's interesting because you grow up as a kid. You're 15 years old and you're looking up to the adults. You're like, I want to be an adult because adults know everything and adults are so switched on. And then you become an adult and you do look around and you're like, what are these retards doing? Well, who are these people? How did they even get here?
Yep.
And it is quite interesting. We were talking before, the Twitter space. A lot of these people are switched on, but you take these ideas that we're talking about right now, we take them to YouTube, we take them to Instagram, we take them to TikTok, and people, their heads explode when you talk about women, how we think about women, and not in a negative way. Or you think about fitness or business of any kind and just success and stuff in general. I think everybody else is crazy.
100%. I think that the deeper you get into business, the more isolated you begin to feel because you're having to solve problems on the day-to-day basis that you don't necessarily have an answer for, and you can't find this stuff online because there's fewer people as you go higher and higher, whether that be in business or acquiring wealth, developing yourself socially. Only a certain people get to that upper echelon, and it's a lot like athletics because my previous life was in athletics. That was a large part of my life for 15 years. And I think that sport is the closest endeavor to business. And now when I see guys that have never played a sport online and they've just gone straight into business after being a kid, to me, that's a very unnatural transition because you haven't built those mental calluses to be able to develop yourself into that type of business person or person that generates large sums of money.
100%. And tell the audience, because we've talked about it, your background and how you got into online biz and how it was maybe a natural progression for you?
Man, it was anything but natural, to be quite honest.
Really?
I thought I was going to die a couple times trying to crack the online money space. But yeah, so my life was in golf for a very long time. From age like 12 to 23, 24, every day revolved around golf. So at age 12, I had basically kind of been exiled from team sports because I just quickly realized, like, this is not for me. Couldn't play basketball, couldn't play hockey because
Why wasn't it for you?
I just had massive issues with authority early on. Not shocking.
Same here. Same here.
Not shocking. So, the moment I was told to perform an athletic movement a certain way, to be in this position on the court or on the hockey rink, there was immediately friction there, right? To the point where I'm like, okay, you got to go put me alone. So in hockey, the closest I got to being in an individual sport was being a goalie, right? And I actually really enjoyed that because I was kind of in my own little world. Yep. And I could run my own little business back there away from the others. And I was introduced to golf, and I immediately hated it. And it became a slow transition where I started to appreciate all the little intricacies that go into that game. And then when you injected this idea that I could gamble old dudes for money as a 12 or 13-year-old, I was like, damn, I could spin up my own little business right here. So my first way of generating money ever was hustling old dudes on the golf course. And that was my job from 12 to 18.
You were caddying? Or
no,
you were just
no.
going on there like playing them?
My mom would drop me off at the golf course when I was a little kid, basically. And I was around all different types. So I was around guys that were running businesses. I was around like the functioning alcoholics that were working in the cart barn. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting folks in the cart barn.
Yeah, and then everybody kind of in between there. And I was very lucky to grow up in SoCal because you've got tons of wealth there, but then you've also got people that are hanging on that love to do outdoor shit like golf, right? So they want to go play and they want to mix it up. And this is before social clubs and country clubs really started to blow up to the point where you had to be a member at one to go play golf on a Saturday in SoCal. Now it's tough to go play public golf. It's 2-3 months to even get a tee time. Nevertheless, I had a unique experience being around all these different types of characters. And while I was bumping shoulders with them and asking them about life and learning about how they conduct themselves, me as a kid asking this and
12.
being around 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, I was also engaging in money games with them, right? So we'd go out and I'd bet them and they're like, yeah, whatever, kid, I'll play you for $100. So I'd roll up to the course every day, ready to deploy my little bag of net worth and try to flip that and double it and triple it. And that was a process of me losing these little sums of money, which I thought was the world to me at that time, and then building it back up many times over. So it was a very unique childhood in that sense. Didn't participate in a lot of school because I had this way of making money in the real world. And I was also developing a skill that took me around the world and showed me this unique way of life.
Do you think you felt isolated kind of doing that because you weren't in school a lot? And then that carries over to business now?
100%. That lonely journey, and I would call it a lonely journey as a golfer or anybody in an individual sport. You ask a boxer how their life is, they're going to say it's lonely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was definitely a unique childhood. And, in high school, as an example, I was very disenchanted by the curriculum. I didn't like it. I didn't like the idea of having to ask, like, oh, can I go take a bathroom break? Like that.
You got to get the hall pass.
Bro, that idea in itself was very, very triggering. So, I wanted to play that game of being in school as efficiently as I could, right? So I would see a lot of kids that would like buck heads with their teachers, and it would create more friction to the point where more enforcement was put upon them. My philosophy with school was I'm going to befriend all the teachers and I'm going to get them to like me and have them essentially help me out if I ever got into a pinch with me not studying for a test. So I'd roll up and not do a whole lot of studying. I was not to be a braggadocious, but I had decent level intelligence to the point where I could roll into a test without having studied and do quite well. But these teachers, they liked me so much to the point where they weren't going to let me fail, and they weren't going to get on my ass if I wasn't in class.
What's interesting about that is, like, I immediately my brain goes to friends in high places.
Mm-hmm.
And if you relate that to what we're doing right now, there's some things we could say on here that would super get us in trouble.
Yeah.
But we probably won't say that because we have goals and ambitions and things that will probably need friends in high places in order to get a couple of those things done.
Yep.
And it's interesting because probably anything that we know now, we can probably look back to our childhood, like this in high school, or you in golf, or, you know, I played a lot of golf when I was in high school, and I had a similar kind of relationship to the teachers and just sports when I was growing up and the whole thing. I can pull a lot of those lessons, and basically everything I know now, I probably was learning back then as a kid, but I didn't have the conscious frameworks of like an adult to apply it yet, and you have to relearn it over and over and over. But we want to keep our friends in high places. So
100%.
We're gonna keep the pot a little bit, you know, we're not gonna go all the way.
Well, I think that's an interesting point. I think that, you know, too many people, they start to make a bit of money and they immediately want to elevate their friendship group and stop talking to people that they used to be around. I've never really bought into that idea. You know, just to give you context, like when I moved to Miami, the first person that I ever met was the guy washing my car. And we'll get into this, Miami versus LA and other parts of the world.
Yeah.
But, you know, this guy that I met that was washing my car, he literally showed me his bank account the first day that I met this dude. He had $0 in his bank account. And I'm like, all right, you know, go do your thing. You obviously need the money. Go wash the car, right? And he tells me his aunt's dealing with some major health issues and whatnot. So my point of telling you that is I like to chop it up with guys like that, but I'll also chop it up with the billionaire and be able to relate to both of them.
Do you think that, I don't know if you grew up wealthy or not, or like what your family
was very
like.
middle class.
Same here.
Yeah.
And I think that gives us this groundingness almost, where I can relate to that guy, I can relate to the middle, and I can also relate to the top because I'm trying to be at the top.
Right.
I don't know if that's unique to us. It's almost like a blue collar spirit, if that makes sense, with a white collar type of job or network, whatever that is. But I find it interesting because a lot of the people that are maybe born into money or something almost look down on us from not being from that place, but playing the same games as they play. And I don't know if it's a jealousy thing or it's a like you don't belong type of thing. But I've always noticed that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you say that about the guy. You know, he's got $0 in his bank, but you can still relate because he's hustling.
Yeah. Well, my philosophy on that has always been poor people need to learn how rich people operate, and rich people need to learn how poor people operate. Because you'll deal with guys that come from money and come from generational wealth, but they don't know how to relate to the common man.
The struggles,
the
pains.
And those are the guys that are typically working for you in your business. And if you don't know how to communicate with those types of people, nobody's going to want to work for you.
100%.
Nobody's going to want to help you build your mission. You need a lot of, and I don't want to call them normies, but you need a lot of people that don't want to be a warlord or a rainmaker.
You know, Tate's got that clip. Somebody's got to flip the burgers, dumbass.
Somebody's got to flip the burgers. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the world would stop going around if you didn't have people that were, you know, kind of cogs in the wheel. But to make no mistake, I don't shit on any of those people. I don't, because they're an essential component to society.
We don't exist without them.
Right, 100%.
We don't sit here doing this without somebody building this phone and this camera and this microphone and these chairs.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the point you were saying about friends, cutting friends off. I relate to that in a sense, but I'm curious because you said you maybe haven't cut friends off or on purpose.
Sure. Yeah, so definitely some people have had to kind of get moved out of my life. There's no doubt about that, because at points I was hanging out with people that just weren't going to get me to where I wanted to go, right? Yeah. And I think you just naturally learn that through life. But my core friend group, is still guys that I've known since I was 12, 13, 14 years old.
Hell yeah.
And, you know, I hold those friends near and dear. And the only new friends that I'm really creating at this point are people like yourself that I've met online that are sharing the same type of journey of going through business as an entrepreneur.
Same thing. Clients and people I meet online doing similar stuff.
Yep.
And we can just relate in basically every aspect.
Sure.
You know, I mean, we talked about this too a little bit. You know, there's the relationship aspect. As men, we need women in our lives. There's the family aspect. There's the money aspect. There's the spiritual connection aspect. There's the fitness aspect. There's the health aspect, how you eat, all that. You know, if you can relate to someone in maybe 3 of those, I think that person's a good enough friend to keep around. Maybe you're never going to be 100%, I don't think.
Yeah.
Very rarely. But if there's a couple pieces and you get along and that's your guy for this, I've always found that I can relate to basically anybody. I will say, because it is a big topic. People say, cut your friends off. Some people say, don't cut any friends off. I'm somewhere in the middle of like, this is an interesting topic because it's going to sound a little transactional.
Sure.
But I do think to a degree relationships in general are transactional.
Yeah.
Such as, man, if I sit down with you and you're just taking my energy and I'm getting nothing in return for that, there's obviously a transaction happening and I'm not benefiting from that. That's a very one-sided transaction
100%.
of energy and, you know, exchange of conversation in general. And I don't want to be around that.
Yeah.
And so I would cut that off.
Yep.
But if there's some boys, you know, that I grew up with, which there are a couple that are still good friends of mine, and we relate on a couple of those aspects I just mentioned, of course I'm going to still hang out with them. Like it makes a lot of sense. And I do think it's somewhere in the middle. Like you do have to cut out people that are just bullshitters, wasting your time, taking your energy, that whole thing. But you don't have to cut out everybody.
Right.
You know? I think that's kind of sad if you do so.
100%. Yeah, it's interesting, man. Like I see a lot of the younger guys specifically, they run up like a little bag of money.
Think they're special?
They move to a different city, get a whip, and it's like they're this whole new person. It's like, man, the fall is going to be tragic because when you do get into a pinch, you're not going to have anybody there that you actually want around you.
Especially when you're kind of putting a facade on.
Yep.
Like you're this big boss that can't be taken down. Nothing bad can happen to you. And then your ego's so big. So when a fall does come, because you're not that guy yet, you have to ask for help. You're not going to ask for help because the ego's too big and it's a facade that you put out. And then no one's going to want to help because they think you're good too.
Yeah, and I mean, I've definitely gotten into some wicked positions in business. We can touch on that. Probably too many that somebody should go through.
How did you transition from golf and then you were in real estate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then to what you're doing now with the e-com. And I know you mentioned to me you've done some crypto in there.
Yeah.
What was your transition like?
Yeah. So after I kind of had realized that my golf career was not going to pan out and be as good as I wanted it to be ultimately, I had to figure out another way to generate wealth because I couldn't keep hustling old guys at the golf course until I was 50, right? You're just not going to build an empire doing that, obviously. So I had a couple different options. I thought about going into like sports management, so managing athletes, like being a talent agent for them. That was the first idea that I had because I grew up watching Entourage, right? So wanted to move to LA and be like an Ari Gold type character. And option 2 was to get into real estate because both of my parents had worked in real estate, and that was really the only thing that I had ever heard talked about. And I'd also, you know, try to study guys that had generated wealth, and the common thing that I kept coming across was these guys were playing in the real estate game, whether that be commercial or residential. So me being the extreme type person I am, I was like, okay, I want to go sell the biggest, baddest buildings or learn how to build them. So I had put together a list of the top investment sales brokers kind of all across the US, many of which work in LA. And I had kind of narrowed down this list to about 10 to 20 guys, and I was just hammering cold calls because I had a decent educational background. Mind you, I went to college on a full ride to play golf, did well, but I wasn't doing like interns, right? I had no traditional business experience at this point. My life was golf, school, traveling to play golf, right? Trying to compete as an athlete. And I had this list of guys that were kind of dominating the commercial real estate game, and I was hell bent on getting a role, any type of role, mailroom, being an analyst, and I was very lucky that
Mailroom.
yeah, mailroom exactly. So I was very lucky to knock down a door, and somebody gave me a shot, and it just happened to be probably the baddest dude in commercial real estate. I got very
In the
very
country?
lucky. In LA, definitely
LA,
on the
yeah.
West Coast too, but it was a messy process, man. Like I remember walking through Beverly Hills with like printed out resumes that had like just made up shit on them. Like, you know, like what can I do here? You know, like didn't know how to work
Yeah.
in Excel modeling. I was a good writer. I could give a speech if I had to on the spot. So communication was always my strength, and that's what I studied in college because I'm such an advocate for the English language and learning that as much as you can, right? Taking that to its fullest extent.
And to compliment you on that as well, I noticed you're a very good speaker. Obviously,
you.
you've been in sales with real estate,
Sure.
but a lot of people, I mean, you haven't really been on camera, but a lot of people, you know, the first time they're on camera, and for you, it's just natural. So
Yeah.
that's very cool to see.
Yeah,
and
appreciate that.
I respect that as well because it's something that I've trained in myself. I don't use ums a lot. I try to get rid of the likes. Something I'm working on right now, actually, just to share and be candid, is taking my message and condensing it into short, snappy sentences as much as possible. Because the
Yep.
whole game now is clips. The
Big
whole
time.
game is taking this footage and clipping me up. And if I'm here a little bit and I'm there a little bit, and the sentences are like fractured, it's not going to be a good clip. So I'm trying to keep it short, snappy, and to the point. So I respect that a lot.
People don't have the attention span to listen to long form anymore, right? So you got to be able to get your message across quickly.
Unless you have built-in brand equity already.
Right.
Like when we had Belmar on and we had Iman on, we had to take the Iman one down. But when we had those guys on, they just did good because they had that brand equity already built in. I
Right.
feel like I'm still building my brand equity, you as well.
Sure.
At least on the internet. But, you know, if you're established, you can get a long-form view like easily, especially on a podcast. It's much harder though if you're not.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, people want to listen to what you say after you have a pedigree.
Of course, status.
So, yeah, I landed in this real estate job off a bit of good fortune and off a bit of sales and communication skills, we could call it.
Respect.
And, you know, you start as an analyst and you're kind of like crunching numbers on buildings, like trying to figure out which ones are performing well, which ones are not. And typically ones that are performing really well or ones that are performing really poorly are the ones that get sold. So you're hammering cold calls and you're trying to get these people on the line. Mind you, the people that own these buildings, they're typically multi-millionaires or billionaires, or it's a fund that owns them, or a family office. So you're making cold calls to them and you don't know anything, right, as a young guy, and the people know that you don't know anything. So you're just getting shit on all day. Like in terms of sales conversion,
I relate. Dude.
Investment sales has to be the lowest.
I was cold calling a list when I sold cars.
Yeah.
First day they come in and they go, "Here's your list." I go, "For what?" Call them. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
I know roughly a little bit about sales. Probably not getting you shit on as much as you, so I can't imagine what that's like. Because these people are hot, you know. They've somewhat hot, you know. They've at least opted in on the website.
Right.
And you're just fucking hammering it all day.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. I got my sales job the same way you got cold call, cold email.
Yep.
I was actually the first one I cold emailed, but same shit.
It must have been a banger of an email.
It worked. I don't know.
One shot, one kill. Yeah. No, so sales is a great way to come up, and I'm lucky that I had a kind of an arduous process of going through that journey. But you know, learned how to be on a big team, learned how to develop myself in ways that, you know, I didn't learn in school, and was very fortunate enough to work for a complete killer who I kind of spun off and worked on a different project with, which we can get into as well, more in the tech space. So while I was working in this real estate job, this is pre-COVID all the way up to it. And as soon as that weird period had come around, I quickly realized that office buildings were not going to trade anymore. There was going to be a lull in conversions. So as an investment sales broker, you make your money anytime a building trades. So if there's no sales, you're not going to eat, period. So I knew it was going to be a really long 5 years. And at that point, this kind of goes back to the authority thing. I had just gotten to the point where I couldn't work for anybody anymore. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go to an office no matter how good that role was.
How did you do it? How did you do it?
Yeah.
Because you probably already had that feeling.
Sure.
You know, so when you were there.
So I'm like 4 or 5 years in. Like I'm deep into this job where if you turn back now, you're throwing a big bag down the drain because these guys are making crazy sums of money. To give you context, like the best investment sales brokers in the world, they're making tens of millions of dollars per year.
Got it.
Okay, so
good context.
Good context.
Yeah.
I know where I can go here,
yeah,
and I know what I'm about to throw away. While I'm working in this job, I start dabbling in the online money space. So I started, getting on Twitter and looking at how the younger guys were making money. Crypto was a big one. Info was a big one. Sales was a big one as well. Of course, me being kind of a degenerate, I wanted to start slinging some shit coins, right?
I wouldn't think of you as a degenerate though.
Yeah, it's deep in there somewhere. Well, we started the story by me telling you that I was hustling old dudes for my first job.
That's fair.
All right, so
I just respect that. To me, that's hustle.
Yeah.
Like let's do it.
You tell that to your parents and your teachers though, and they're like,
I don't know. My dad would love it.
get a job at the gas station. All right, so I start trading some crypto, and it goes quite well. Timing and luck and a bit of skill. And ran up a very nice size bag to the point where I was comfortable leaving my current job to go pursue this side hustle at the point. You could call it that. And I had stashed away a nice bag, and I thought that trading was kind of going to be where I go start my new life, right? And I quit that real estate job right around the time after COVID. And I remember the day very distinctly where I was walking up in the Hollywood Hills on this little route that I used to go walk, big houses.
Love it up there.
Yeah, I was walking past like Avicii's house that he used to live in.
Okay.
And I'm like, none of these people work for anybody. They have their own dynasty. They have their own mission. Now it's time for me to make mine. And that day, I told him I was not going to come back. I was done. So I quit that job. And from that point on, I went all in on entrepreneurship. And I made it a point that I'm never going to work for anybody ever again. I don't care how wicked it gets. And it got wicked. Very wicked.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. So that bag that I had spun up from trading crypto, I ended up squandering the entire thing. Yeah.
Trading.
Yeah. So I was trading and doing a bit of investing actually. And part of it was market timing, and part of it was just not knowing where I was kind of getting ahead of myself. So I squandered that entire bag, lost all my money, and had to rebuild from scratch.
Was it leverage? Meme coins?
It was a little bit of everything. Yeah, I didn't discriminate from any types of crypto trading. So there was some leverage in there. There was some, big time shit coins that you were only finding in like Discord servers and nasty stuff, right? So yeah, I ended up squandering that entire bag and kind of had to rebuild at that point. And it was a really wicked journey. I don't wish for anybody to go through it, but it was probably the best thing that I've ever gone through personally. Almost a spiritual type journey, man.
Was it all your money or all your crypto money?
No, it was all my money.
All your money.
Yeah.
That has to be just like an unbelievable like reset, I guess you could say. Because I've been there a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Where business partner splits, things happen. Maybe I've been upset about how much money I haven't kept out of what I've made from the internet.
Yeah.
Expenses here, maybe blowing a little bit of money here, learning life a little bit. But to go to zero, what is that? What's that feeling like to go to zero?
Mind you, I'm 30 at this time.
Okay.
Right? And I had miniature episodes of losing all my money because I told you I was essentially a quasi gambler.
And before you continue,
yeah,
I think it's also the point of losing all that money after you already feel like that guy. Mm-hmm. You feel like that guy. You quit the job. You got X amount stashed away. You're doing insane, and then boom, life changes like immediately.
Yeah,
I've had those swings in crypto, not like that, but you're way up, and then 2-3 weeks later, market tanks or whatever, and you're like, damn,
zeroed out.
I was way up. Now it's
Yeah.
barely break even. What the hell just happened here?
Yeah, well,
So-
I was also in the hole though, because I had like expenses and shit at this time too. So I didn't just go to zero and that was it. Like I had banks calling me and nasty shit. Like it was really bad, really bad.
Okay. So where'd you go from there? How'd you build back from zero?
Yeah, so I was living in LA at the time, and I was living a life that like most people would desire. Living very nice, always had access to good food, good relationships, cool people, interesting people that you'd want to be around. And I moved back to Orange County, and I just kind of took some time to figure out like, what do I actually want to do with this existence? And I really wasn't doing anything, because I'm not a believer in forcing anything. This is something I've kind of learned. You can force your way into certain outcomes, but now I just don't. If I'm designed to be broke for 2 or 3 years, that's what I'm designed to do. So I took some time to do absolutely nothing, and I was just dabbling around, kind of going to the gym, talking to people, and of course I stumbled my way back into golf. So started to kind of reinsert myself in that community again, and it was very different from the time that I had left golf, because I left trying to pursue a career professionally, right? As a professional golfer, that is my journey. And now I'm coming back more as a spectator, like an investigative journalist, like what's going on in golf instruction, what's going on in golf equipment, golf courses, like what do people think about the game, golf fashion. And it was like I entered this whole different universe that I was unaware of that existed. So from the time that I quit playing to 6-7 years down the road, the game had changed entirely. The landscape, the type of people that were involved in golf.
You think that's social media doing that?
Social media massively blew up the sport, because now people wanted to look cool doing it. They were showing off beautiful courses that they were playing at. There were athletes, entrepreneurs, actors now playing golf, and it had massively popped during the time around COVID.
What's interesting on that is it's such a status thing. A beautiful course. I have the best clubs. Look at how I'm dressed. We're playing a game. I'm playing with this guy. I'm playing with that guy. And you take that, you put it as media on the internet like this, and people get status from it.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because I think it's done that to everything.
Yeah. So while I'm kind of playing around on the internet trying to figure out my next move, I came across one of your clients,
really,
who you've worked with, who was selling high ticket items online.
Being careful when you say this.
And he's a great guy.
He is awesome.
I have a lot of respect for him. Very sharp guy. But I saw a product that he was selling online, and I quickly understood the business model. Like, I know exactly how he's making money. I understand the marketing angle, and I basically took that model, kind of learned from him, and applied it to my new world, which was in the golf space. And spun up this sporting goods business online in the e-commerce space, and it's been a crazy journey ever since.
How does this online stuff, in your opinion, differ from the real estate game? Because I mean, there's paths, right? I think that us even just having this conversation is like, we're gonna be big in some sense. You know, you're destined for that, whether it's at this level or probably much more from here. Because I mean, you're a little older than I am, but we're still young. You know, I'm not gonna say your age. I don't know if you want that out there.
Bro, I'm over the hump on 30.
I'm 26.
Yeah.
But I still look at both of those ages as young. You know,
you've got old blood though.
Explain that.
You got an old soul. Most young guys, they don't operate the way you do.
In what way do you see that? I've been told that a lot.
You're very humble, which I appreciate for your knowledge. Like, you're a sharp dude. There's no doubt about it. But you don't present yourself in a braggadocious way, and that's honestly one of the reasons why I wanted to work with you. I had just seen the way that you articulated your thoughts online, and I can immediately sniff out like who is not using ChatGPT to write their shit online, and who is putting that stuff out there from the heart. And that's the way that you came across.
I appreciate that a lot, man.
Yeah.
And us being young and on that point with I think you're an old soul as well. Like I would say the same, and that's probably why we get along.
Yep.
Really well. But you know, on that point, we're going much bigger on a long-term trajectory. Like, think about 60 years old. I mean, when you're 60, it's almost double, you know, or whatever, roughly, from where you're at now. Where are you going to be? Probably massively bigger than where you are now. And even just the fact that we're having this conversation, what I was saying, is tells me that, at least for me, and probably for you, that trajectory is happening.
Yep.
You know, I think a lot of dudes, back to your point about getting a little bit of money and then flexing a little bit,
Sure.
and then maybe crashing and burning, they think that dollar lasts forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if you were that guy that thought the dollar was going to last forever from the crypto stuff.
Yep.
And that's what resulted in the crash and burn. And maybe this is a renewed version of you where you are building for longevity. I'm curious how that switched, because I've had those business partner splits where I maybe was super confident before, and then after I'm like, I got a lot to learn, and it probably humbled me a bit more, and it turned me into the guy that does have the ability to go long term with this thing, which is probably my actual destiny with this.
Yep. It's a good question. So I don't want to say I have no respect for money, because I do understand the utility that it provides, but at the same time, I don't idolize it at all. I believe that money is a tool to produce forced production in other areas, to create businesses, to employ people, to change your environment. But as a means of preserving it, I've never had respect for money in that way. If I've ever lost a sum of money, that money is dead and burned, and it's not coming back. So I have no emotional connection to it. And I also understand that there's money flowing all over. There's money flowing down at the pool. There's money flowing down at this condo building, this hotel, the liquor store, the CVS.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. You just need to figure out a way to create a mechanism to get your hands on it. So how can I have a massive amount of respect for something that flows in that abundance?
Totally agreed. And it's, how can I have respect for that when it's created out of thin air?
Yeah.
And I could just make something that gets money.
Mm-hmm.
I can just build a business operation that acquires the money for me tomorrow, so I can then use that money to create other shit.
Sure.
And you talked about the purpose for money. I believe the ultimate purpose for money is creation.
Yep.
That is fuel that I can use to acquire resources, people, things, assets, whatever I need to stitch it all together and create anything I want, whether that's a beautiful life, whether that's a family, whether that's a building, you know, whether that's a new technology or whatever it could be. That to me is what the purpose of money is for.
Yeah.
And your point is, that's probably the best I've heard it put. How can I have respect for something that flows so abundantly?
Right.
You look down at the pool. People are buying $50 sandwiches from this shop down here because it's way overpriced. It's Miami.
Right.
But they are buying the $50 sandwiches.
There's a market for it. Yeah. So I've never gotten super down on myself or depressed if I've ever lost a big sum of money, because I just know I'm going to make it back. I've turned myself into the type of person that can generate large sums of money.
Yep.
And my whole ethos of 18 to 30 years old was acquire as many skills as possible so I can be a weapon in whatever industry that I'm in. Sales, tech, crypto, building relationships. I want to have all those weapons at my disposal.
Yeah.
So if I ever get into a pinch, it's not going to last that long.
You think that any industry you go in, you could just turn it on, dominate?
Well, I think that there's certain industries that I just won't participate in because it doesn't pull on my heartstrings. Like, I'm at the point now where I'm just not going to work on anything that I don't want to work on. Like, it's got to be a mission that I see value in, and I also have to be able to bring people along with me. I'm not really, kind of going back to what we talked about, me being like a solopreneur, solo athlete. Now I do value building teams and having people that I correspond with on a daily basis. Like the sales team that I have now and the guys that I'm speaking to the most, like I'm going to work with those guys likely even if this business now stops.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, like I want to be around the people that I'm around right now at my present time in life indefinitely.
But you still have that authority of, this is still my shit.
Yeah.
You know, you're not getting told what to do by people.
Sure.
That's still important? You think even if you're working for others or with
Yeah,
others?
yeah, it is. It's a big part of it for me. I just don't like authority in that manner. And I'm not going to go insert myself into somebody else's mission at this point in my life.
Something hard for me when I quit my sales job was making my schedule, and it was almost a little too much freedom for me at 19 years old because I was making a little bit of internet money. It wasn't enough to go do crazy shit, but it was enough to quit the job and say, I'm going to go all in on this. And I was still at my parents at the time.
Yep.
But that level of freedom was, man, I can go to bed at 4 a.m., I'll wake up at noon, and I don't really have to do anything until 4 o'clock when I have a call.
Right.
And I think that was super detrimental for me because I stopped making some progress maybe for a little bit of time because I was just, I'm gonna enjoy the freedom a little bit. And then I eventually got back in the grind because I was like, I gotta make money, I gotta go to the next level, all of that. Did you notice anything? Because you were in the 9-to-5 game for a while. Was that transition tough? And my guess is it wasn't once you found the thing, because that's how I am.
Yep.
Where I get obsessed with something, and I'm just like, this is what I got to do, and I sleep 3 hours a night until it's done, and I'm obsessed with it, and it's just like all in.
Yeah.
But when I was first getting started, it was a little too much for that 19-year-old Nick.
For sure. Yeah, I think for a 19-year-old, it's probably too much freedom, but now there's so much information out there that pertains to like how to structure your life and how efficient people are operating. You could extract that wisdom off the internet and apply it to your own life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your maturity level can handle that, right? So to answer your question, I would say that it is a lot of freedom. Can it work for the right person? Yes. And for me, where I was at in my life, it was an easy transition. I was easily able to spin up a business and work 20 hours a day on it.
Yeah.
That's the type of person that I am. But I also was coming out of a period where I wasn't doing anything before I spun up this last business.
You're chilling.
Yeah, if you looked at my life, like it was not only in disarray, but there was very little output on the day-to-day. Like I was just kind of sitting at the bottom of this trough waiting to find the next opportunity. And I think that's how all great opportunities are identified.
I agree. I just had on before this, and I wanted to introduce you to him, but he just had his flight. One of my clients who sold his business for almost $2 million. And it's just something he wanted to exit and all that. We were just doing a pod, and I saw him working the last couple of days, and it's been maybe 2 years since he sold the business, and things are starting to form around what he's doing next. But I've seen him maybe start and try 20 or 30 different things in that time from selling to now. And it's always like, I think I'm going to go on this. Right. But man, maybe not. It's not the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's just the beauty of creation.
Yeah.
The beauty of creation and the freedom and ability to do it, and what money allows for, to take care of your life while you do that stuff.
Sure.
It opens up those doors of, I'm just going to try some stuff and see what works for me and see what I like. It sounds like you were doing that.
I was. Yeah, I was trying a bunch of different things at that time. I was lucky that the current business that I'm in now, that was probably the fourth or fifth thing that I had stumbled upon. But I immediately saw a swim lane where I could spin up a business and create something pretty special.
What brought you to Miami? Like, why'd you come here?
Yeah, so I first started visiting Miami when I had my job in commercial real estate. And I had came here around COVID when it got really weird in LA, because LA was super restrictive. Miami was like the only place that was open at that time. So I touched down in Miami Beach, visited Brickell, and I'm like, this is the spot where everybody's going to be moving. It was very apparent to me. The energy was here. And compared to that point in time versus where Miami's at now, this city has changed dramatically. It feels like it went from being like a small town, relatively speaking, to New York City overnight.
I was here in 21. That's when I moved here. I lived here for 2 years. When I came in 21, I actually visited in 20. When I was in 20 was chill.
Yep.
It was right before the whole lockdowns. You know, this was January. It was chill. It was cool. It wasn't too crazy, too wild. I come back in 21. It's a little bit more, nuts, but it wasn't super nuts. It wasn't New York City. To me, it wasn't LA yet.
Right.
And all the influencer shit was over in LA.
Yep.
They weren't in New York City. They weren't in Vegas. They weren't here. And since 21 to 22, it was still cool. But then really when 23 hit, I was like, it's time to get out.
Mm-hmm.
At least from Brickell. And
Yep.
that's when I left Brickell. But Brickell became New York City almost overnight. You look at pictures 20, 25 years ago
Dude,
of Brickell.
it's crazy.
It's like trees and small little, huts. Not huts, but you get the idea, houses. And now it's Manhattan.
I respect the guy with the Burger King. He's been holding out on selling his lot for years, man. He's a gangster.
I wonder what that's got to be worth.
Obscene amounts of money. Yeah, he's a G, though, for holding on to that piece of property as long as he has.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Where do you think Miami goes from here? Because we were talking about it.
Ooh,
It is wild
man.
what's been done. I personally have aspirations on a longer time scale for doing some kind of development.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say too much on here. It's something I want to keep a little more low key.
Yep.
I've expressed that in the past actually on the podcast, but I see an opportunity for it. I'm very particular about the way I live.
Yep.
The water I drink. Right now I'm drinking bad water because couldn't order the good one. But like the water I drink, the food I eat,
Yeah.
the clothes I wear, the place I live in, the environment, the amount of sun that's available right near the ocean. I'm very particular, and building something that I can share with others is kind of a cool idea for me. So I have aspirations for that. But I'm wondering, you as the real estate guy, where's this place going to go? I don't want to miss the boat, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But where's this place going to go?
Man, my biggest worry about Miami is that it doesn't have the transportation infrastructure to support the amount of building that they've done. Because when I first moved here permanently, I went and toured all the new condo buildings that are going to be built, just out of curiosity. And they're building like 60 new buildings.
It's nuts.
But the roads can't handle that. There's not enough parking for that many cars. So they're betting on this place becoming bigger than New York City. Like when you talk about the sheer amount of people
Seems like it.
that they're trying to jam into here, it just doesn't line up, man. The math doesn't work. So that's my biggest worry about it. Miami is an incredible place, though. Like the hustle culture here is goated. Like everybody's on their grind here. Whereas in LA, people are just kind of floating through life. But with that said, LA has other benefits.
How do you think it compares to New York City? Have you spent a lot of time there?
I've been to New York and I've spent some time there. I mean, the big advantage of Miami is the weather.
Yeah.
To me, this is the best weather in the world.
Yeah.
Period.
The thing I notice is I feel like New York, those guys only care about work.
Mm-hmm.
They don't give a shit about anything else. They will sacrifice all their health for the sake of,
For the mission.
yeah. And I respect that, but I also know I don't want to live like that because I want to have a lot of longevity.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very in tune to just how I feel. And I need the sun.
Yeah.
I need the ocean. I need the health that, this place provides.
Sure.
The thing that I find here is there's a lot of people that claim to be serious, but maybe aren't quite 100% serious. They'd rather chill and have the lifestyle than do the work and the business first. LA is a different story. I don't know many people in LA really building.
Yeah. People really come to LA to celebrate. It's really not a good place to build because there's so much commotion. And Miami is arguably turning into that same environment as well. Like it's quite hard to build here because there's just so much stuff going on. Like even if you're shacked up in a nice building, there's just a lot of noise constantly. Case in point.
What is that?
Yeah.
I hope the mics should be fine.
Yeah, so even if you're in, a high rise and you're in your way up there, you're still getting ground noise. So it's like there's always distractions here. There's just loudness everywhere you go. There's commotion. People are loud here. In LA, people are much more reserved. It's just a whole different climate altogether.
The best way that I found to do Miami is to come for a little bit and set it up so it's set up perfect. It's set up right. Like here, got this. We got the ocean right there. You got a couple like really good restaurants here. You got the pool in the building. You got that path to walk on. I don't technically have to leave this place, and I can just sit here and just work.
Right.
I can sit inside. I can go to the pool and work. Whatever. I don't go to the pool and work. I mean, that's
Sure.
kind of gay, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
But I can still have my own like bubble. I've almost curated that
Yeah.
when I come here, when I visit here, and then maybe go away and go somewhere else where that is a little bit more chill. But it's a good place to get stimulus, meet people like you, hang out with friends, and then go away and don't talk to anybody for
Couple months.
a couple months.
Yeah. If you live here year round, I think that you eventually will just blow out your dopamine receptors.
It happened to me.
Yeah, bro. It's just not a place where you can spend 12 months out of the year. There's just no way.
I mean, I did it.
Yeah.
I mean, I left here and there, see family, whatever. But for the large, so we had to take a break because just as we were talking about noise, we cast a spell and somebody started cutting concrete or running a chainsaw or something nuts, some Miami shit.
Miami shit, yeah. They're building a
but-
lot here.
But they're building. they are building a lot here. So I want to finish that conversation.
Yeah.
And then I want to actually get back to like what we were talking about off camera just now because I think it's quite interesting, and we can toe the line because that's a quite towing the line conversation. But before that, so Miami, like I kind of expressed to you, I was like, imagine that Brickell and what's there was on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
That would be an interesting setup. Imagine you're in your 40th, 50th, 80th floor high rise, and you can just walk out right to the beach. That's an interesting life. That's a cool way to live. Do you think that's possible? Because, and I'll preface this with, Miami Beach is strict because it's technically, you know, as you probably know, two separate cities, and they don't like these super high buildings, and they're all about the historic district. But I look at the historic district and I'm like, they're not taking care of it. It looks like shit, and their classification for historic buildings is, from what I've heard, a little bit not accurate. They're not all historic. You can have a shitty apartment building that's painted a certain way, and all of a sudden it's a historic building. I think you knock that down. Let's build some beautiful shit.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I think the biggest thing that I learned in real estate was seeing the politics that go on kind of behind the scenes of like what it actually takes to build a new structure in a city. Like it takes years and years and years. And I've participated in deals like that where just the entitlement process alone will take 5 years to see it through. And that delays the transaction, that delays the loan, everything about it. There's lawsuits involved just because somebody wants to build a new building. So it's endless, man. I mean, if you're a developer, that's like one of the hardest things that you can pursue just because of all the hurdles.
Where do you think this goes?
I don't think the beachfront area changes much. It probably stays the same, but Brickell and downtown continues to get crazier.
My prediction for over there, obviously you know where Edgewater is, and the buildings get, you know, smaller and smaller as you go up. I think all of Edgewater and Design District and all of downtown and all of Brickell is just going to be built up to 95.
Yeah.
Like in the inner part, and that'll be your Manhattan. I was going to say miniature Manhattan, but
No, that's it.
basically Manhattan down here.
Yeah, that's where they're trying to go with it. Like they're building the Waldorf in downtown, which is going to
Yep.
be the newest, tallest building probably in the world, right? I think that's what they're trying to do.
I don't think the world. I think it was like
maybe
the East
maybe
Coast
US.
or something.
Yeah, I think it might be in the US only.
Yeah. The thing that I think needs to happen but won't is they got to fix South Beach.
Yeah.
There's a lot of riffraff. See, I don't understand it. But why do you have all these clubs, these little vacation spots, this, that, the other? Knock all of it down, level it,
Yep.
and just put in really nice stuff for rich people, and you won't have any of the problem. That's here.
Yeah, it's for sure coming. I mean, Miami's just becoming such an expensive place to live that I mean, a lot of people are going to be forced to leave. Like, even if you're doing well here,
That's real.
It's expensive to live here.
It's super expensive. Like
Yeah.
this place right here, we were talking about, we're obviously on the beach and shit. This is 10, 11, 12 a month if you rent it full time. I think in the off season. In season, more, like
Right.
15, 20. You're paying a hefty amount. I don't know if you want to say it on camera, but I mean, you got a really, sick view, great building, brand new. I don't know who's moving to these new buildings.
Yeah.
But these-
Well, a lot of them are vacant. Like, a lot of them are 50% vacant because they overbuilt during the lockdown time where people were trying to flee here, right?
Got it.
So
Yeah.
they massively overestimated the supply. So I think that prices just eventually come down a bit and they all get filled. That's kind of how
Makes
that probably
sense.
plays out. But nevertheless, it's just a very expensive place to live your day-to-day life. Although you benefit from the tax, you have leak in other areas. Like just getting food, transportation's expensive. That's
Yeah.
where they really get you is on dining, man.
Dude, gratuities included in every purchase.
Crazy. Yeah.
Things are jacked up. Yeah, they get you. You could spend, I'll tell you this, I could easily spend $100,000 a month in Miami, and I wouldn't be living that crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
I wouldn't be living that
absolutely
crazy.
insane.
It'd just be like a lot of good meals and a nice place, nice car, but you're not balling.
Yep. With a family.
Yeah, with a family,
with
100%.
a family. Yeah, it's a crazy number, but that's what it is. I mean, to live in any of the major cities well now, it's a big bullet.
Agreed. So I want to transition a little bit to the topic we were talking about off camera, and I'll ease into it.
Sure.
So we'll go slow from the Miami discussion in, and like a lot of the influencers, right? They moved here from LA, and I don't know if you've seen that happen, but at least that's my perspective. You see a lot of these guys that are streamers or TikTok types or whatever, and they used to have their houses out there, and it's still there a little bit, but it seems like it's mostly here now. For the most part, anyone that's got something going on is here. You know, it's a big thing. But also along those lines, you have podcasters, you got influencer types that are in the media. We were talking about basically, do we think some of these people that run podcasts and shows and media are ops?
Mm-hmm.
And I won't name names, because I probably will rub shoulders with some of these people. And I think to a degree, some of them. You know, you look and some of these guys are former federal agents, or their family was a federal agent. And it's an interesting thing to look at, that all of a sudden they're this big name in media, but they're on the opposite of the government. They're always criticizing the government, but their family was a former, military officer, or they're a federal agent, or whatever it was. And it's interesting to think about if they were controlled or not. And then we got to the discussion of, is Trump controlled or not? And I think, as much as I want to think he's not, certainly seems like some of the moves that are going on right now certainly are. I voted, I'm not a big voter, but I voted for the deportations. And what's really interesting is the people that are somewhat paying attention sort of think of it as, yeah, they are deporting people, because they are. And then the people on the other side are like, yeah, they really are deporting our people. And they're rallying them up, getting this protest happen. And then people like you and me and others that are super switched on are like, they're not doing what was promised.
Yeah.
Not even close. We want everybody gone. You're not American, you don't belong. But the farmers can stay, and this guy can stay, and that, to me, that just seems like controlled opposition.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, do you think some of these guys are ops? Do you think Trump is controlled? What do you think's happening with media? What do you make of a lot of the media coming down here to Florida? What's interesting is, I can't say what I was about to say on here, actually. I can't say it. But I'll let you continue and answer that.
Yeah. So I think that anytime any country starts putting the interests of another country before its own people or its own government, there's massive issues that stem from that. And I think that America just has too much leakage right now all throughout its system. Leakage in policy, leakage in capital. And if you're going to look at the way that you'd run a business, you wouldn't run a business that way. So why are we running the biggest economy in the world that way? Doesn't make sense logically. I understand logic doesn't gear everything, but that's how I would approach it. And I would try to preserve the rights and the future of my people before I did that for anybody else. Because that's my duty as the president. If I'm the acting president, I got to look out for my people.
Now, it seems like we were talking about 2016. I was young in 2016. I couldn't vote yet. I was that young. But I was watching it and I was getting fired up. I was like, this is the guy. Like, America. You could feel it. There was an energy there. And even looking back on some of his old speeches and how he was operating and moving, I think that they didn't think he was going to win, the other side. Mm-hmm. And then obviously he did. But also, it felt very grassroots. It felt very real. It was a real agenda that a lot of people could get behind. We're going to fix this, 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 and this. And it just made sense. And then he obviously couldn't get it done that first term. But he seems like he's almost going against what he's supposed to be doing now. You know, giving control of government data to a tech company run by people that I would personally question.
Yeah.
Now, there's an argument that other people could make, and this is where I think they get us. There's an argument that other people will make where it's like, well, if they don't give the data to them, who are they going to give the data to? Because they have the data already. So he's not doing anything bad. He's trying to protect us. It's for deportations. But I look at it and I'm like, I really question it. I don't know where we go from here. Sitting here talking about it, I don't think Trump is the answer to our problems. And I think someone way, way, way more radical is going to step up in the next decade because it's going to get bad.
Yeah.
Like, who comes after Trump if he doesn't get this stuff done that he's promised? Probably someone that is really bad for us. And that's going to cause a chain reaction of, let's actually get the job done here. And the liberal side that's screaming over Trump is going to get somebody 10x worse that they're not going to be very happy about. And that's what I'm personally waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to place a wager on how it unfolds from here is, if I look back at this previous election, if elections are even legitimate, big if there, I would say that the Democrats probably intentionally ran a losing campaign, and this whole next term of Trump is going to be used as kind of like a smear campaign. They will likely regain power. Things will get even loonier than they previously were. And then that warlord type person comes in and wreaks havoc. Because
and people aren't ready for it.
people aren't ready
I'm
for
ready
it.
for it.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it.
Hey, I mean, I think that things just got so weird for the longest time that there's going to be an inevitable swing back. But make no mistake, like, I'm obviously right-leaning, but the Democrats, if my theory is correct, that's a very intelligent move to run a smear campaign and run a losing election if you know you can't win.
These are the people that own all the media. They own the banks. They own everything. Now, it's a little more hidden on the right, but they also own the right too, as we both know. And I would agree it's intelligent, and they kind of have America by the balls.
Yeah.
A certain demographic does. And the solution is for us, guys like us, probably guys that are watching this, maybe watching the clips right now, in my opinion, to become as rich as possible, as dangerous as possible, as healthy as possible, as tight-knit as possible.
Yep.
Because I think that's the only way to truly survive, but also thrive. Like, I think we'll survive, but I'm not trying to live in the pod and eat the bugs.
No.
And live in your 15-minute city and own nothing but be happy. I'm trying to take over.
Sure.
And I think that's the only way.
I agree. I mean, I think a lot of the things that have been pushed, like in the masculinity space, are overall net positive when it comes to building yourself up.
Yeah.
Because if you want to have any power over your local environment, you have to develop yourself into a person that can generate money, look out for yourself physically, have a good network, and be able to provide for other people. So if you can't accomplish those basic things, you shouldn't be worried about what's going on with the global economy or the media and all that. I think that is a prerequisite to even embark on the type of mission that
I'm
you're
going to be
speaking about.
even harder on it. I'm going to say, unless you own land, you probably shouldn't be able to vote.
Agreed.
I don't personally own land, but if being able to vote was a requirement to own land, I would have already bought land.
Yeah.
You just get a lot of dumbasses, bro.
Yeah,
Making
and I mean,
decisions for you and me.
It goes back to our conversation about cities. Like, the only utility of these big cities now is to drop into them, spend a bit of time, be around people that are kind of on the similar path that we are, and then leave, right? And go back to your sanctuary where you probably have land, you're growing your own food, and you can raise a family in a secure and safe place. Because the big cities, even in Miami, this place is just not that safe.
No, it is not. I mean, it is a controlled environment when you're in your place. You know, the street over there compared to the beach over there, wildly different walking on that street versus that path.
Yep.
And the undesirables just somehow don't really make it
Sure.
Over there, they don't, it's too much nature for them. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
but I totally get it because man, there's a lot more homeless now than there was previously. There is crime. It's America. Crime isn't punished enough here, and so people get away with some of these things a little bit more. So it is a controlled environment, almost like the resort feel. But then you step out of it, and you gotta watch.
Yeah.
And I wonder how long that lasts until it's like, shit, you gotta be in your controlled environment or you're at risk because it is so bad. You think about Brazil, for example. You got the favelas. I think I said that right. And then you've got where the everyday people live or the tourists live or whatever. Those are vastly different worlds. And if you step into that world, you're at risk, like massively. And I've never been to Brazil. I've just heard stories. So I think you start to get that here in America where the wealth gap is massive because you got those rich cities next to the really poor areas where a lot of the crime happens. I feel like look at Florida. You're familiar with Florida.
Yeah.
You've got neighborhoods where there's $20 million mansions. You go across the street and it's homeless people.
Sure.
Or really like rundown shacks. And I feel like that gap is going to keep increasing. The more they print money,
Oh, yeah.
the more it gets just difficult to live and, like we said, thrive and own nothing, but quote unquote be happy, like the World Economic Forum tells you to be.
For sure.
I think it's going to get way more extreme.
Yeah, I mean the writing's kind of on the wall. Like, and I've been thinking this for like a decade now, where the gap just continues to get bigger and bigger. Fortunately, you can kind of isolate yourself from a lot of these environments, which is, if we go back to how we thought about money, the only real utility of it is to kind of shield yourself from these grotesqueries of society. And if you want to have a nice life, you're just going to have money to be able to do that. There's no way around it.
When you have kids, I imagine you want to have kids.
Yep.
When you have kids, how are you going to have them grow up?
It's a great question.
Especially in a world like this. The liberal answer is, I'm not going to have kids. I'm going to take myself out of the reproductive pool. I don't want to bring kids into this world so they get an abortion, which is absolutely retarded,
Yeah.
But like, obviously we're not going to make that type of choice.
Sure.
How are you going to have your kid grow up?
Man, I think that athletics just has to be a big component if you're raising boys. If you don't develop that mental callus and that mental skill of being an athlete, I think it's really hard to go into business and not get scarred or have the resources to dig yourself out of a hole. So sports for guys is huge. I wouldn't want them to grow up in a big city. I think that there's just too many hurdles that you got to kind of overcome. Like even in your day-to-day life, they're just around stuff that I just wouldn't necessarily want them to see. And I would definitely not put them through the public school system because I just don't want my kids around a lot of these people.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mostly agree. I think one point I disagree on is I want them to experience a city a little bit because I want them to see the bullshit that's out there so they understand. Because I think something that happens with that rich type that we were talking about, they're really shielded from it.
Yeah.
Imagine you grow up on Palm Beach Island and you never leave the island. You don't really know how the average person lives. And then you also don't know that this shit exists out there. And so it's, in my opinion, it's important to see a little bit of it, especially as a young boy.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I might rewind the way I phrased that because I definitely think you need to see some of the wicked parts of society. I certainly did. And I did like manual labor, like in my off seasons.
That's important.
Yeah. So in college, I was pouring concrete and doing stuff like that with your hands. I think that's a massive part of developing skills as a young guy.
I'm not a father yet. Certainly plan. Dude, I want to have a lot of kids.
Yeah.
But the thing that I will say, and this is super controversial, I want to have a lot of kids, and the kids, when I have them, are going to be perfectly programmed. Maybe not perfectly, I'm a dad for the first time, but I'm going to program them. What I would ask myself, what kind of stimulus do they need to receive to become the person that can weather the storm that is the world?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be sheltered. They're not going to receive the perfect everything. they're going to receive the perfect programming, which a lot of times is they're going to go through some bullshit, you know? You're going to work the manual labor. You're going to have to walk, you know, through the downtown as a 15-year-old, and you're going to see the drug addicts. So you understand what the world's like.
Yep.
And I'm not here to save you when you grow up. So you better get
Better
real
figure it
about
out.
this shit.
Better write your own
you know?
curriculum.
So
Yeah.
like things like that, and the way they speak about themselves and think about themselves, I do think that genetics play a massive factor, but genetics aren't the whole factor. You know, I'm pretty short, but I'm still here on a podcast, able to do business day in and day out and be successful and meet people like yourself and us have a great conversation. And you don't look at me anyway for it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that are short, their genetics, whatever you want to call it, it is their genetics. They're just so down on themselves. I can't make it. Nobody respects me. I don't know. I don't have that problem. Everybody respects me, as far as I've seen.
Yeah, you got big aura though. The thing about it is if a guy is shorter, they're typically going to overcompensate and develop a more robust set of skills or personality in other areas.
Sure.
Right? I think that's the beauty about being a man, is that if you have some major deficiency, the natural response is just to overcompensate
to be better.
massively. Yeah,
As long as your testosterone is on the right track.
exactly.
So for me, it's like there's genetics are part of it, but also that nature and, you know, nurture side of it, of how is this person growing up. And a lot of people will grow up in, you know, fucked up households, or they'll experience some really traumatic stuff and not have the will to overcome it because they don't have the tools to overcome it. And obviously I don't want that to happen to my kids. And so they're going to be calloused, you know, from a young age in the proper fashion, but also have the mental wherewithal. You know, they're not going to be watching
Stupid shit.
They're not going to be watching Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Yeah.
You know, they're not
Yeah.
they're not going to be watching Coco Melon or whatever the hell these shows are.
Right.
They're going to be listening to some Earl Nightingale, you know, before they're going to bed.
Yeah.
You can
agreed.
achieve everything possible.
You know, I think that giving your kids good programming is a major weapon, right? Because it's obvious, like kids that come from good households, they typically have a better outcome. It is what it is. But at the same time, me personally, I would never enforce like strict military-esque.
I think that hurts them more than anything.
I agree, because I think especially with guys, the natural response is just to do the opposite of whatever you're told. So how I kind of parent my kids in that manner is going to be very creatively done, where it's like, sure, you can go do whatever you want to do, but just know that there's a massive cause and effect for every action that you're
It's
taking.
almost like kind of putting them in the environment where they can receive the stimulus on their own
Yep.
to become the person that they should be to be ready for the world, rather than saying this. They kind of got to learn it on their own a little bit.
Yeah, it's the same feedback loops that you experience as an entrepreneur, where you're trying and seeing how different actions produce an outcome.
I don't want to listen to people.
Yeah.
I'm pretty like anti-authority. I like my own agenda.
Yep,
Nah, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it my way.
exactly.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
I shoot myself in the foot, not all the time, but in the past I have, you know, as a young guy. What do you think is an important thing for a young guy to that might be watching this pod to learn right now and to be prepared for, you know, if they're fresh, maybe they're just out of college, right? Because I think you and I probably got started a little bit younger, because I dropped out. You were in the golf scene, you know, you were hustling dudes at, you know, you're hustling old dudes at 12 years old. What about that guy that's 22 that hasn't discovered himself yet, that might have just gotten a degree and could be going into corporate? What would you tell him? But he's ambitious. He's just not sure where to go yet.
Man, I would be trying on different careers, like Halloween costumes, one a week, and I'd figure out which one pulls on my heartstrings, and then I'd figure out which one is generating me a bit of money, and I would lean heavily. Once I figured out one or two of those that really worked, I'd go all in. Easy answer. I wish somebody would have told that to me, but
Dabbling.
I kind of had a negative connotation with trying multiple careers, and even people would like, they'd tell me, they're like, you're all over the place. You're thinking about 4 or 5 different business ideas, different jobs. Like, that's
I think
what
there's
you
a clear
should be doing.
distinction of before something's working, it's really cool to be all over the place because you're just trying to find that thing that works.
Yep.
But after something's working, if you're not going all in on that, it's really stupid.
Really stupid. Yeah, and now there's so many different ways to generate wealth online that you almost have over stimulus, right? You're presented with like 500 different ways to make money. So I understand it's harder to narrow it down now. I came from a generation where I was like flipping through magazines and books, like trying to figure out like, how does the money flow here? How does this business idea work?
How'd you figure out everything was a lie?
Yeah. I mean, just seeing early on a guy pull up in a Rolls Royce and he wasn't working a normal job. He had his own business. So I was hit with that piece of information very quickly, like that a normal job or even working for somebody that has a normal view of society, that's not going to get me to where I want to go. You don't even have to be that front man. You just have to be behind somebody that doesn't see the world in a normal manner, and you're going to be able to generate tons of money.
Agreed. It's actually a cool position for a lot of people because I think most people aren't really cut out to be number one.
Agreed.
Being number one is like, it's tough. I want it, but man, some shit you deal with sometimes. This problem, that problem. Number two, number three, they're kind of chilling sometimes.
Honestly, it might be the apex role in today's climate.
You know how I learned that everything was a lie? I was 15 watching Alex Jones every day before bed when he still had his YouTube channel.
Yep.
You know, I'm on there, you know, fuck all the Netflix shit. I'm watching Alex Jones, the globalists, you know, the New World Order, this and that, and 9/11, they took it down.
Yep.
You know, the Federal Reserve.
Oh yeah.
You know, the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm 15, and I'm like, damn, we're gonna have an economy crash.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think I've told this story on camera before. I'm watching Alex Jones. I'm thinking that we're gonna have an economy crash. So I'm getting all wilderness survival stuff prepped up.
Oh man, you were in deep.
I'm ready, bro. I'm ready. I got the bag. I got the tools. I got the kit.
Yeah.
I'm figuring it out. I'm 16 years old. I'm ready. I took the money I was making from when I was working at a golf course, and I was just prepping everything. I should have been buying Bitcoin.
100%.
Should have been buying Bitcoin.
Jeez.
I bought XRP instead.
Okay.
I bought XRP instead.
You still might have done all right.
I bought some XRP instead. And then I got to college. I was just convinced by my guidance counselor in school, the whole system. You got to go to school. You got to go to college. You need your higher education. Teachers that I had respected. You got to go. I'm like, all right. Man, I got there. And I think the trigger for me was the first thing you get there and the orientation at college is so soy. Come on, wear your cap. This special shirt, and you have your folder, and you have to cheer and do the special dance.
It's tough.
I went to Pittsburgh, UPitt, and they took the Sweet Caroline, they took that song, and in there they go, "Let's go Pitt," and I'm just, dude.
I can't see you
What
there.
am I? 12
see you in
years
that
old.
environment. Yeah.
It's a super vaxxed environment.
Yep.
And I didn't want any part of it, you know. I felt like I should have been eating just like some kind of soy chow or whatever to fit in.
Yep.
And the second trigger was, you know, lack of freedom, the whole thing. But I had to turn in a philosophy essay. And it wasn't even a professor. It was this student professor that you meet with more often. And he was some foreign guy that was definitely gay. And super just not a man.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it at the time to think about it like that. Of like, why am I learning from this person? But I did know that this person wasn't like what I wanted to be like. And I'm learning about this philosophy essay, and I have to write this philosophy essay, and I'm learning about all these different philosophers, and I have to pick one. I've never heard of them before. They're not anybody remarkable or super well known, and I got to turn this essay in. And I didn't write it. It was due the next day, and I just went down to the office, and I was like, I'm out. I drop out, and I'm out of there. Just multiple breaking points like that of I'm in an environment that I know isn't going to get me where I want to be, which is super rich. It's the only thing I could think about at that time. So why the hell am I here? And I know there's other guys like that out there.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't either make that connection or make that choice to leave. And I always wonder why. I don't know if it's a willpower thing. I don't know if it's a programming thing, but I always wonder why. Like, this isn't serving you. Why don't you leave?
Yeah. Well, people are naturally afraid of risk. Like, they're afraid of the pain that is going to exist if they were to drop out and fail on whatever business venture that they go into. But that pain is very enlightening because there's so much knowledge that sits, again, kind of at that bottom of that pit where you have to fall to. Everybody has to do it. Like, if you want to go to the next level, you have to have a low.
I got a funny question. Maybe funny in my opinion. Do you feel like the trenches, those low points, are better than the high points?
Honest to God, I really do. And I have to resist from going back there because there's so much knowledge that is down there.
Same.
Yeah.
I almost am excited for it.
Yep.
I'm almost excited to lose.
Yeah.
To learn that lesson and grow from it. But really, there's just something about every day you're on point. You're trying to fucking make it.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost try to simulate it.
It's hard, man.
Right now, it's content grind, but we have this beautiful view. It's hard to feel like you're in the trenches. It's hard to feel like I'm back in the office that I built in my parents' basement trying to make my first dollar.
Yep.
But I try at least.
You know, I think if you can recreate those sensations without doing it in like a self-sabotage type of manner, because a lot of guys do that. A lot of guys fall into this loop where they have a bit of success and then they almost intentionally self-sabotage because their identity has not met where they want to go financially. They haven't developed themselves into that type of person. So naturally, I think you just want to go back to being a loser, right?
There's a spiritual element to it too, I think, where deep down your subconscious and your connection with, we can call it God, we can call it the field that exists, the consciousness that everybody taps into. Your relationship with that isn't one where you've accepted that you're that guy at that level yet.
Right.
And so you do fall back, like lottery winners. Why do lottery winners go broke, lose it all? They didn't learn the lessons to become that person that's capable of being at that level. And so they end up reverting back to what's normal for them.
Yep, I totally agree. So with that said, I mean, how do you recreate the trenches? I think you have to be taking bigger shots in business.
I think so. And it's, people talk negatively about moving the goalposts, but I think moving the goalposts recreates the trenches. So you get to 100 a month, and that's just what you wanted the whole time. It's important to move the goalpost to $1 million a month, or 2 or 5, or the next big project, or trying to get a big payday from a big deal.
Yep.
Because if you're not shooting for that, the 100 doesn't become the floor. The 100 becomes the top.
Right.
And so when you're shooting for the next, and you get to 5, but you drop back to 100, that pain is massive. That pain is massive. And a lot of people, for example, a lot of people that haven't felt 100K a month in, say, profit don't know what that's like. And so if you hit it and then you fall below it, that's so painful. And it does recreate the trenches.
Yes.
So if you can almost frame it, in my opinion, as I'm going for $1 million, like that's my current trajectory. And my business works a little bit different than yours, obviously, with info margins and the whole thing. But that's what I'm shooting for. If I fall back to 50, bro, I'm going to be like,
clinically depressed.
I'm going to be like, like clawing, you know, like freaking out.
Yep.
Like, what's going on? That's how I think it happens. It is moving the goalposts. That's important to do.
I think that's a good way to think about it. And I think that you do have to take some shots and have them not work out. That's a way of just reminding yourself that you're not God, right? And that everything that you touch isn't going to turn to gold. Like I throw up shots weekly that result in catastrophic results. Hemorrhaging large amounts of money on different ideas or marketing campaigns that don't work out. So I'm an experimentalist. That's how I like to do it, is by just putting shots up.
That's something as well that team members sometimes don't understand, where, you know, you motivate them on a mission. We're going to do this, 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 and this. Any shot I put up, I'm all in on it. And you go all in and it doesn't work, immediately you're pivoting to the next one that you already had in your mind. You get new information, you're moving to that. That can really fuck with some people's heads because they're watching you and they're like, are you a crazy person? no, I'm not a crazy person. I'm being efficient here, and you got to keep up.
You're just adapting. You're adapting to the environment because everything changes so quickly. You need to be able to have those quick feedback loops of boom, launching an offer, launching an ad, and running it for a month, having it not work out, and then the next week you're spinning up something else. The world moves too quickly. Like you have to be able to adjust quickly now.
Especially with social.
Yeah.
Think about the movement of money. It's been massively sped up by wire transfers, but in particular crypto.
Yep.
And everything's going to be on a ledger soon enough.
Mhm.
I think we know that. Communication's been sped up. You know, it was the telephone, or we go way back. It was the telegraph.
Yep.
And before that was the letters, then the telegraph. Then you got the telephone. Then it was like email and instant messages. Now it's text message. Now it's social media. News moves, like information moves incredibly fast. Now I think with AI, it's going to be maybe intelligence is sped up. You know, you can get an answer. You go on my phone, I go to ChatGPT, I'm in there. I think I use GPT more than I use Safari now.
Yeah, I agree.
On a real note.
Agreed.
And so that's the knowledge is sped up. It's just increasing faster and faster and faster. And then it means the output is faster and faster and faster. And then if you have people on the team or people you work with or partner with that aren't aligned at that speed, it gets really difficult for them to keep up with you.
Right.
Especially, you know, family members, friends that just aren't switched on or in the industry. They're looking at you like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you so frantic? I'm frantic because, like, look at this shit. Like, I can be awake 24/7, and there's always something big and needle moving to do because of the speed of information, money, and knowledge.
I'm curious to know, with that in mind, like, do you feel a higher sense of anxiety to try different business ideas because there's so many different changes happening in society?
Not necessarily different businesses or anxiety, but I definitely feel an urgency to grab everything I can in the current opportunity now because I know it's changing so fast. And so I have a lot of urgency around it to where my girlfriend's right there. So where she looks at me like a little crazy sometimes because, you know, women need some attention.
Sure.
Right? And that's not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. She's laughing at me probably. But they need some attention. You got to spend time with them, especially if that's your girlfriend, that's your wife, you know? You're going to start a family together. That's an important thing. But she looks at me crazy sometimes like, can you please just spend a little bit of time with me? And the sense of urgency I have around this opportunity and the things I'm doing and how fast it moves, and she's smiling over there. It's like, yeah, okay, a little bit of time, a little bit of attention. And I feel bad sometimes, obviously, because, you know, she's relying on me, one, to make money, but also take care of her. And she wants to feel that sense of love. And so it's an interesting balance to have, you know, when that urgency is high. I'm curious, do you have that urgency, or is it different opportunities like you mentioned?
I would say it's a constant need to make sure that I'm innovating quicker than my competition. So in e-com, it's somebody that's in the same vertical. I want to make sure that I'm either offering more products, my marketing's better, or I'm making more calls, or having more touch points with the customer. In your business, I have to imagine it's more outbound and figuring out ways for people to book calls.
It's more throughput from view to follower to lead to application to call booked.
Okay.
And so how can we speed that up?
Got it.
And how can we make that system more efficient? One very simple thing is more people and more ads pulling people through that funnel. So if you think about it, we're going to get a little technical. Content turns a random person that views you into a follower. And that follower also becomes a fan through the content. That fan becomes a lead through the content. And that lead gets more indoctrinated because they're getting more content and more and more and more, right? You know, you can have the setter, the phone guy, pull people through from a lead once you have their information to an app to a call booked. You can also, though, have an ad that pulls a view into a follower, into a fan, through nurturing, into a lead, through a CTA, through more nurturing, into an app, into a call book. And so for me, it's figuring out new ways to fill the top end of that, which is the view category, to get more people that I can bring through that system. and also speed up the efficiency of that system. So it doesn't take a month for someone to go from view to buyer, but it takes 2 days.
Right. Yeah, and I think that if you're in the info space, you have to have a massive personal brand right now. Like, there's really no way, in my opinion, to do info unless you have that brand recognition that really only exists through like doing podcasts and sharing your story.
I would say in general, I would say I've seen companies be successful without it. I do know that we've started to grow our company stuff a little bit and starting to run some paid ads, and we are seeing some leads from it, and that's cool. The thing that I look at right now is maybe a mix where I start to take a more documentation type approach with my personal brand, with the vlogs and the content I'm putting out and stuff like this, where we're just chatting, shooting the shit, you know, building the brand in a documentation type of way. Like, this is what I'm doing, this is how it's working. And then the brand and business itself is the thing that drives a lot of the leads, but they work hand in hand. That's how I have approached it. It's probably a stupid high IQ, a roundabout way to get there.
Yeah.
But it works.
No,
for
logically
me,
it all makes sense.
it works for me. And the biggest thing for me was I don't just want to sell info. I want to preserve my personal brand and my reputation for 10 years, 20 years, 100 years to come. I want to go be able to build a building.
Right.
I want to go be able to launch a networking group. I want to be able to maybe go run for politics and maybe be the guy that takes things over. I don't know. There's a lot of different options, and I don't want to go and box myself into, I'm just the social media guy. I'm just the guy that sells the info. Because certainly it makes money, but for me, it doesn't serve me on a long-term trajectory, and I would really regret doing it any other way.
What are your thoughts on guys that try to create an online persona before they have real world experience?
So dumb. It's the antithesis to our marketing too, where it's like you have to be somebody and bring something to the table, or you have to document. But if you come to the internet and make this persona and you're somebody that you're not, one, you're gonna crash and burn, like we've talked about. And two, it's just so inauthentic. It's so fake. It's misaligned with God and the universe. And the highest vibration is said that authenticity is said to be the highest vibrational living experience. And so I probably wouldn't want to be around you if you're faking it.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I think that way too many guys are rushing into the personal brand train before they've either created a business, played a sport, had a heartbreak, done anything to boost up the story.
What's interesting is when we hung out, I was like, dude, you got all the pieces to blow up.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys like yourself that don't want to be big for whatever reason. I'd like to dive into that.
Yeah.
You know, what is holding you back from maybe showing your face out there a bunch?
For sure.
And putting your name out there and, you know, being that guy that's super out there.
Yeah. I would say that the thing that has held me back the most is kind of just how my life has unfolded. Like, I've always been deep into whatever I'm working on. And right now it's my current business.
Sure.
Before this, it was, you know, real estate and crypto. And before that, it was golf. Like, I haven't had the time to set aside and just kind of tell my story and create that online identity. So I'm certainly not opposed to it, but me, at least in my heart, I've always wanted to be a guy that was at least 30. And I always wanted to have a lot of life experience before I came online. Like, my first account that I ever ran was my Twitter. And that's really the only place that I'm carrying myself right now. I like Twitter for certain reasons, but I like it because I can read the written word of how somebody is actually thinking, and I can determine then if I want to follow that person based upon the way they see the world.
Interesting thing you mentioned there is getting that life experience and all of that first. And kind of what I just explained is the documentation side of it. That's my way of navigating basically what you said, which is being somebody as much as I can before I start being boisterous on the internet and braggadocious in some sort of fashion. And I think that's why we relate and why I relate to a lot of the guys that end up joining our stuff. And these aren't kids. I think a lot of these info programs that people are selling, They're selling to kids. They're selling to 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds. Guys are just like, I want to make some money on the internet. It seemed like a good opportunity. And I've sold some of the biz op type like that before, where you really got that crowd. They're not as serious. They don't put in the work. Whereas I work with some guys that are very similar to you, where almost all my clients are kind of on that level of maybe self-awareness, I guess you could say. And they're all dealing with that dilemma, which is, what do I put out there?
Right.
Because I don't want to be somebody that I'm not. So what does it look like? And I think that's probably the biggest reason people come to us, is they struggle to maybe navigate that realness and that authenticity in the landscape that we have right now, where any kid can go rent a Lambo, get a Airbnb in Miami apartment, record as much as they can for like a full year and a month. Like theoretically that's possible. And then they can put that stuff on the internet.
Right.
That doesn't always happen. A lot of it is real, but there is a fake persona of 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21, the younger 20s, I guess you could say, that are living in a way that they don't really have the life experience yet to talk about.
Yeah.
Or they've made money a little bit too much money before they become a man in the world. And a lot of our clients are trying to navigate, well, they're successful, but I don't want to do that. So how do I be successful? Because I don't see anybody else being successful with that. And so I'm trying to be the example for that. And I have been successful with it.
Totally.
Can obviously be more successful, but yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think that there's a massive rush into personal brand right now. Like I was watching a podcast the other day with Scooter Braun, and I'm like, this is a guy that held out for the longest time to really tell his story online.
Yeah.
Like that was a guy that was just managing the biggest artists in the world, and he was kind of this elusive character behind the scenes that nobody really knew anything about. But now everybody's kind of rushing in because they understand the power of it. And if you want it to be a mission beyond, creating more businesses and like making a change in society, you almost have to have a personal brand.
I look at it as the ultimate business card. If I can have media on every major platform, I got Twitter. I consider that Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, I guess, but really Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. If I can have media on there that is consumed by tens of thousands, if not millions of people, I have infinite leverage, and I have a business card where, and a perfect example of this is, man, I get at least 5 DMs a day of people like, hey man, can you help me with my brand? Can you help me with my offer? Can you help me with this thing? And I don't even talk only about that stuff. I talk about things in general, but I get business because of it.
Yeah.
And instead of them coming into a store and picking up my business card and checking it out and seeing if I'm the guy, they go to the Instagram, they see my results.
It's built in.
It's built in. And then when you are that guy and people like you for you, rather than liking you for this one opportunity that you sell, like I was describing, which I don't want to be, they like you for you. They can come to your brand, and then anything new you launch that is you, any project, whatever it is, they can then latch onto that and someone will buy from it, and it's the perfect fuel for growth for that new project.
Right. People want to be involved just because you're affiliated with it.
And it seems cool.
Right.
And it's a targeted group.
And I totally get that. You're in a unique position where you've had the offline experience, you've brought it online, and now you have a cool platform where you can leverage it all. So I think that's the way to do it. Like if I could script the perfect way to come online, it's build up some battle scars offline and then go tell your story and work on businesses.
I think I could have done more. It's interesting. I think that the grass is always greener. Like you say that's cool. I look at your situation, I'm like, that's cool. I know some affiliate guys that aren't online at all, but they're just balling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's cool too. I don't know. Everyone's on their own path, I guess. Grass is always greener. I sometimes think I wish I had some more of the life experience, some more of the scars.
Sure.
But that's also why I like to lean into the documentation, because I'm still a young man.
Yeah.
I'm not 40 years old. I have wisdom, but not the wisdom that I want. And it's almost it's not imposter syndrome, but a little bit like maybe on that spectrum.
I mean, you're not even at 30 though.
No.
So I feel like you're going to have some heartbreak and probably some massive success like in the very near future, and the failure could be something where you've hit a financial milestone and then you drop down and you have like a month that's 50% of what you're acclimated to, and that can be something that jolts you to create a new crazy enterprise.
I think something interesting that we talked about before was women.
Yep.
I mentioned it here. We mentioned it when we first hung out. What do you look for in a woman as like a super high performing guy? Because this is always an interesting discussion. People have some hardcore takes. I think one of the biggest guys, we've mentioned him in the pod already, is Tate. You know, in this space that's gone and had some crazy takes, you know, on that line of things. You look at the fresh and fit guys, they're a little out there with some of their stuff, you know, a little hardcore. I like to think I'm sensible, but I'm old school with how I view my relationship with women and my relationship with my girlfriend and all of that. How do you look at it?
Yeah. So I would say the most negative perception for me with marriage, I'll start with the worst, is the contractual side with the government. And anytime that I have to have a contract with the government just to have a relationship with somebody, to me, that's a point of friction. So I don't like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
The part that I do like is if you have a man with a woman who's helping build his dream, his mission, I think that's the most powerful position and powerful concoction that you can come up with, right? Because that's the ultimate. You have the creativity of the woman and you have the focus and the hard work of the man.
Why were you smiling when you said that?
I think that a woman has to be involved in a man's mission for it to work.
For the mission to work?
Yes.
Or
Fully.
for any mission to work? Or
No.
for
the
mission to work if they're together?
To reach the maximum potential as a man, I do think that you have to have a woman involved.
That's an interesting thought to ponder.
Yep.
I would agree. And I agree mostly on the point of creating a family. It's not going to happen without a good woman. It's certainly not going to have kids and then leave those kids with some random bimbo.
Yep.
You know, but you're saying in particular that woman being involved or supporting the mission of the business or the takeover of a country or whatever it is, you're saying she has to be involved in that to reach that maximum potential.
I think it's a very essential piece. I've just seen too many instances of guys that are operating with $100 million net worths, billionaires, guys that are running countries, they all have a woman by their side. I think that it's a Bonnie and Clyde type thing where you have to have that companionship. Only though, it only works if that woman is bought into the mission.
That's true.
And if the man has a grand mission and if he's that guy. If he ain't that guy,
agreed.
Woman sniff that out and then it's over.
She doesn't respect you.
Right.
She's not going to listen to you. She's not going to fall in line. She's not going to serve the mission. If you're not that guy, like you said. I see it a lot where you got a young, successful guy, doesn't have a girlfriend yet, gets a girlfriend. He doesn't know how to navigate the alignment. She then starts to take a lot of his time, attention, and energy, distracts him, pulls him away from the mission, doesn't support the mission, actually hurts it a lot, over and over. And I think actually a decision like that to bring a woman in your life is a major inflection point for a man. It's either a massive multiplier or it's a massive just negative impact on everything, and it can make things crumble.
Yep.
Which is actually, like, I talk with my girlfriend about this a lot. Like, you gotta be aligned on this. This is the goal. We are a team in this. And some people would call that gay, by the way. No, you gotta have multiple women and this and that. I don't know how I'd navigate that. How do you, because you think about it, how do you keep this woman happy that you have kids with while being with 3 or 4 others? And maybe it's a biological imperative of a man to be with multiple women. But how does that not distract you and take away from your ultimate goals and vision? I just don't see a reality where it doesn't distract.
Yeah, I think the easiest answer is to not let distracting women into your life. I think too many guys fall victim to that, and that is really what you're referring to, is like that detrimental wrench in the system. So a lot of guys, they acquire wealth and then they have a woman come into their life and it's like this virus that permeates into every other aspect of their life. So again, it goes back to like developing yourself early on. You have to have experience with women early before you have money, before you have a business, to be able to know what a bad one looks like.
So you've been around the LA circles, and I'm sure you've seen some shit, out there with situations like that.
Yep.
What do you make of these guys that are hardcore business guys, just like bad dudes that get it, they can sell fucking anything, they don't take shit from anybody, but then they get bitched around by a woman? Why? Like, I can't wrap my mind around how you can be so good at sales, so good at framing people in business, so good at negotiations, the whole thing. You got the full package there. But then in a relationship, you're kind of the
like
number two.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
I think a lot of guys just put on a facade, to be quite honest, right? Where everybody's playing a role, right? But I think that guys in particular, they can play a role in their business life to the point where they build themselves up as this warlord, and they appear that way to others, but it's really a fake image that they've constructed. So I think that you have to be that man at your core to be able to play both roles, both in business and at home.
And I asked this question with the context of, I want to be that guy in every aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're the same.
Yep.
Where we want it all.
Mm-hmm.
We want everything. You want the perfect relationship. You want the business. You want the health. You want the longevity. You want to take over. You want everything, which is that warlord-like mentality that you mentioned. The high T way of living. How many actually have that in this world?
Man, 0.0001%. It's a flicker in the moonlight. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a hard way to go through life. I think it's a life that creates constant pain, but at the same time, it's a beautiful journey because there's always something to pursue. There's always resources to collect.
It's the only one worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed.
It's a video game.
Agreed.
I say that not to be cringe, because a lot of people that are cringe use that analogy now, but why pick up the coins in the game and kill the people in the game when you can not kill people in real life? You get the idea.
Yeah.
But why not do it in real life instead of the game?
Yeah. And the thing that I would kind of wrap that up with is, if I'm going to dedicate my life to anything, it's the idea that I'll take as many shots as I have to achieve that mission.
Yeah.
And I don't care how many painful low points I have to go through to get there. For me, it's about the game of participating in that.
I'll say as a final thing before we wrap up, because I don't know if I mentioned it before when we talked about the low points. I love the low points.
Yeah.
I love living there.
They're beautiful.
And going through that and becoming the person, because I can feel it in real time, who I'm becoming through those low points. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to get molded by it.
100%.
Hell yeah. Anything you want to leave as like a last message on the pod here?
No,
maybe
man.
to some of the people on Twitter that might follow you before, that come see this pod, anything?
No, I appreciate the love and support that I get on Twitter, and it's a blessing to be able to come across people that are on the same mission, and I appreciate you for having me, and
I appreciate you being here.
I appreciate
and our
your friendship as well.
Of course. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, sir. Guys, great podcast. This was fun. You got to go follow him on Twitter. Link is below. And I'm always posting videos on this channel. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to follow him. And we'll be back with more podcasts and videos soon. Thanks for watching.